It's just about 17 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock, and you're on the Now Morning Show. I am Kimberly De Souza. Now, April is recognized as Child Abuse Awareness Month, and the Children's Authority is actually having a public education campaign to encourage, guardians and parents about tips that they can use to protect their children against child sexual abuse. So in the studio with me right now, I have Miss Ahelia Ramdas and Miss Krista Ali, both who are psychologists with the Children's Authority. Ms. Ramdas, Ms. Ali, good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on Now.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Now, I'm going to start with you first, Ms. Ramdas. So, of course, April is recognized as Child Abuse Awareness Month, and the Authority is focusing on this campaign on child sexual abuse. I mean, what are some of the things the Authority hopes to achieve with this campaign?
So with this campaign, we're hoping to raise awareness and make sure that the public has the information with regards to what is child abuse, specifically child sexual abuse, some of the ways we can identify it, what we should do if we suspect that this is the case, who to report to, and these things. So we're just really hoping to spread the information so that as many people as possible can know, because that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward with preventative strategies, move forward with tackling this horror that is known as child abuse and child sexual abuse.
Now, while there is child abuse and child sexual abuse, what are some of the other forms of abuse that actually affects our nation's children?
So we have child physical abuse, which is known to most persons. So that's the physical damage to a child, whether it's by hitting, kicking, biting, taking objects and hitting a child to cause physical damage. We have child psychological abuse, which is using your words to harm a child and control a child. And we have the child sexual abuse, and we also have child neglect. There are many forms of neglect. It can be educational, medical, physical, supervisory. So it's a wide umbrella.
Right. Now, Ms. Ali, what are some of the signs that parents can look out for to know if their child is being sexually abused?
So the first thing that I want to just mention is while we're trying to raise awareness this month on child abuse in general, we're really looking to specifically focus on child sexual abuse because it's actually currently the #1 rated type of abuse being perpetrated against children that is reported to our hotline, closely followed by physical abuse. So some of these signs that we can look out for and things that we always tell parents to do is be very vigilant. We don't want people to be paranoid, but we want you to be vigilant about what is going on with your child, and always remember to make sure and have proper communication with your child, because this is the only way that they're going to feel safe and comfortable enough to tell you what might be going on. So if you notice a lot of various changes in your child, one day they're bubbly, they have this very active sort of personality, and then suddenly they're withdrawn, they're irritable all the time, they might be lashing out in different ways. Anything that you find that is out of the character, out of nature for your child, it might be a good opportunity to have a discussion with your child. Another thing that we would like to tell parents is that tell your child about okay touches, not okay touches, so that they are aware that, this is okay, this is all right, it's okay to get a hug from this person, it's all right to get a high five from this person, but it's not okay if somebody touches me in a private space. So that when you're having those discussions with your child, they can come and tell you, hey, I think something happened that I might be uncomfortable with. Right, and we're talking about from very a young age, we always encourage parents to tell them in a manner that is age appropriate, and then as they get older, you can provide more information to your child about what is okay and what is not okay, what to come and tell me immediately, and always create a little safety plan with your child. If you are uncomfortable in a particular situation, get out of that situation, make sure and run to a trusted adult that you can tell, hey, something weird just happened to me, and then we'll take it from there. So that's some of the things that parents can do and look out for.
Now, I like that you mentioned a trusted adult, because sometimes the sexual abuse is coming from within the homes. So when this happens, who is the trusted adult they can run to tell of this case?
So what I will tell you from the reports that we receive, most times sexual abuse is perpetrated by somebody that is known to the child and to the family. It's a very unfortunate situation, but it's just a matter usually of probably opportunity, right? Which is why we tell parents, try to limit the opportunity in which something out of the way might be happening, right? So don't leave your children too long with persons who are not known to you, who you feel like you don't trust. Sometimes you just have a gut instinct about it. We always tell parents, trust that gut instinct. watch at your child and see how they respond to people, that's very telling. How does my child respond around you versus you, right? About, you know, with this auntie versus this uncle. And what we always want to say as well, you know, it doesn't always have to be a male that's perpetrating on your daughter. It could be a female perpetrating on your daughter or your son. So be very vigilant.
I think, if I may, I think it's important to also know we have a cultural thing in this country where we force our kids to hug auntie and uncle, even though they're not biological auntie and uncle, even biological auntie and uncle, and, you know, just friends and neighbors, we force them. Go and give so-and-so a hug. That's your auntie, that's your uncle. And I think we've come to the place where we need to be respectful of children when they feel uncomfortable or unsafe doing certain things. And that's where having relationship with your child is important. That's where having conversations with your child is important, because we want to know what makes you uncomfortable. Why are you uncomfortable with this particular person, or, you know, giving these particular displays? Because it may not be this specific person, but they may be uncomfortable giving hugs for a reason. So it's important to know your child. It's important to build that space of trust where they can feel comfortable in talking to you. And we have to start listening to children. We have to start respecting that they know themselves and they know what makes them feel safe as well.
Now, Ms. Ramdas, I'm seeing here, when it comes to sexual abuse, we understand there's something called mandatory reporting.
Yes.
Who falls in this category, and what is expected of these persons?
So there's a category of professionals that fall under mandatory reporting. So we have persons, we like to call them persons in position of trust, right? So these are persons who are charged with the care oversight of children, whether it's a voluntary or paid positions. So we have teachers, social workers, guidance officers, mental health professionals, coaches, you know, personnel that work in homework centers, all of these places where adults are expected to give oversight, protection, care of children. They are considered persons in position of trust, and they are expected to engage in mandatory reporting if they suspect, right? Because we have to remember that the burden of proof is not on these individuals. If they suspect that a child is being abused, they are required by law to make a report. If they have information that highlights or shows that a child is actually being abused, then they are also required to make the relevant reports either to the Children's Authority or the Child Protection Unit or the police. You can call 999, you can call the Children's Authority, and that information is shared across the agencies. So if the police receives a report, they will send it on to Children's Authority. If the Children's Authority receives a report, we will alert the CPU so that the information is shared, because each agency has their own role to fulfill, right? So the police would pursue the criminal matters, and the Children's Authority, we are looking at holistically what's happening with this child. What is the impact of this abuse? Well, this is after we've investigated, substantiated, and knowing how to move forward. What are the recommendations we're going to make to get this child and this family rehabilitated and get them back on a path where they can once again, you know, live life and engage life in a way that it reduces the impact of trauma.
Now, Ms. Ali, you were talking about, you know, what parents can look out for in the child at home, but I'm just thinking that school recently reopened, and I mean, teachers are one of those people who can mandatory report the abuse. The teachers who may be looking, what can they look out for? Is it that the child is going to be withdrawn in the classroom? What are some of the things they can look out for? Actually,
there is no one thing that we can say that each child is going to present with. This is why, you know, persons who are around the children consistently, they are the experts in the children who would be able to notice a shift and a difference, right? So while some children might become very withdrawn, others might act out very aggressively. In cases of children who've experienced child sexual abuse, what we find as well is that oftentimes they engage in very sexualized behaviors, right? So if this is something that is out of the norm for a particular child, then we really need to do a bit of investigating there. It's really to keep an eye out on the children, right? Yeah, teachers are in a position of trust, and what I have found is that children trust teachers quite a bit, right? Whenever we talk to kids and we ask them to identify one or two individuals that they trust enough to speak to, it's usually always a teacher, right? So there's like probably a teacher that they bond with a little bit more, somebody who kind of looks out for them in the school. So teachers do have that added responsibility of, if a child tells me something, I need to report this. And we've honestly seen it quite a bit. A lot of the reports that we receive come through teachers or the social workers at school, guidance officers, and we really want to ask everybody to keep that up, because what we're really here today to talk about is if you see something, say something.
No, Ms. Ramdas or Ms. Ali, I mean, either one of you can take this next question. We've had 2 recent incidents of, children losing their lives because of, being physically abused. And I know that was one of the second highest on the list.
Yes.
I mean, any advice to parents, to prevent them from, lashing out in this type of way and, causing the demise of their children?
Yeah. Okay, so the thing about child physical abuse, the thing about the recent situations that we've had, which were very unfortunate and very sad indeed, is that, again, I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing, if it's a global phenomenon, but we tend to go towards punishment versus discipline. And it's distinctly different. Discipline involves teaching and guiding a child, providing alternatives for that child. And punishment is, inflicting pain or shame in that moment, yes, to deter a behavior, but it doesn't give the child the opportunity to learn, well, how should I behave? Or what should I have done? And oftentimes, children are punished in a moment when emotions are running high, and it's a very fine line. I want to say that's a very fine line between what we term corporal punishment or licks and child abuse, because oftentimes it is done in that moment of emotional high. So what are we asking parents to consider? How you can do things differently. Consider, if you're upset, taking a moment, walking away, taking some deep breaths, calming down before you try to engage the child. It's also important for you to remember the developmental stage of a child. So sometimes we want to punish a child based on something they may have done accidentally even, right? And it's something that's normal within their developmental stage, right? If I am 5, 6 years old and I throw down a bottle of something on the carpet, that's expected. It's a small child, they may throw something down, and we have to know how to keep ourselves in check, emotions, and teach how to be safe or how to be careful, as opposed to just punish because you've done this thing and I'm upset, right? So while we want to ensure that when we enforce discipline, that it's timely, so we don't want to do it too far away and all of these things, we want to be sure that it fits the indiscretion. We want to be sure that it fits the developmental stage of a child. And we really want to encourage parents to take a look at alternative methods, because there's so much research and so many studies that have shown that corporal punishment and physical punishment, it just creates fear. It erodes the trust between parent and child, caregiver and child, and it takes away from that important relationship that you need to build up, that trust that you need to build up. And oftentimes it forces children to do things in secret, or rebel and all of these things. It teaches them that violence and aggression is the way forward when faced with difficult situations or something that is not what you desire or what you want, as opposed to more positive behaviors. And we want to encourage them. It's not only about looking at the bad things, but looking at the positive things. So we tend to focus on punishing our children when they do bad, as opposed to praising our children when they do good, and not appreciating that, reinforcing those positive behaviors, right? That's a way to discipline a child. That's a way to teach a child what you'd have them do. And so we, at the authority, we really want to encourage persons to, let's look at how we can do this. Let's take a stand against corporal punishment. Let's not put ourselves in the position to walk that very fine and dangerous line that oftentimes harm children.
I like to say
more
that
than help.
Fine and dangerous line, because there is a line, as you're mentioning, between disciplining the child and that corporal punishment. Ms. Ali, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, at the Insurance Authority, we are advocates for the rights of children, and what we are asking for is not a change that's going to come around tomorrow. We are asking for societal change in the general way that we treat our children, right? With the number of reports that we are getting consistently, we are not treating our children very well, and this is what we want to move away from. The same way that society is now accepting all sorts of different things, we want to start treating our children better. We want people to move away from this culture of beating, because that's really what we have. We have a culture of licks, and we don't praise our children when they do positive things. it's only focusing on the negative, and this is what we want to move away from and start incorporating more positive parenting, where there is more communication between families, and just moving better in a forward direction. We just want to do it better.
Now, Ms. Ali, thank you so much. And of course, Ms. Ramdas, thank you so much for coming. But before you go, just share with us some information about how we can get more info on the public education campaign. And if anybody wants to reach out to the Children's Authority to report on abuse, what numbers can they call?
So with the Children's Authority, we do have a 24-hour hotline. That's a free hotline at 996 or 800-2014. This is the number that persons can call to make reports, to get information, anything relating to the welfare of children. We also have a very active social media presence on Facebook at the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and our website at the Children's Authority at tt.org. Yeah. Anything else?
We want to encourage public, we want to encourage agencies, governmental, non-governmental, religious organizations, schools, anyone. Should you require the Children's Authority to come in and do sessions on child abuse prevention, and all of these things, the authority is always willing, always able to ensure that we have persons come in and do these sessions virtually, in person. We have a very, very big public education mandate, one that we are passionate about, and there's no criteria that you must fit to access. Just reach out to the authority, say, hey, we'd like to know more, we'd like you to come in and do this training or do this talk with our teachers, with our students, because it's important that we educate both adults and children, right? And we will be there, and we will be there with the information. We'll be there to answer questions, and just, we want to really push. We have this thing in Children's Authority that we say we want to make it nationwide.
Everybody's business.
Child protection is everybody's business. Nice. And we want to make sure that we get back to the place where we have this thing where it takes a community and everyone's looking out for our kids. We want to get back to that place where everyone is looking out for our kids. We can't say that we want our children to be protected and safe and have the right environment to grow and develop and blossom, and we're not willing to make the changes that are necessary to facilitate that. So child protection is everyone's business. Let us, be about our children and be about our future.
Thank you. Ms. Ramdas, Ms. Ali, thank you so much for coming in and just telling us a little bit about the public education campaign that the Children's Authority will be hosting just to tackle child sexual abuse. Remember, the Children's Authority hotline is 800-2014 if you need to get any more information. Up next, we have Ayenka Will with Arts and Culture, and this is where I leave you until tomorrow. Have a great 420 TNT. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.